What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are taking a look at the Marshall JCM 800 series Studio Classic 20. I don't know what the hell that was. Let's do it! Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there. Today, we're looking at this little beast. This is the Marshall JCM 800 series Studio Classic 20. So basically, Marshall kind of finally listened to their customer base and decided to create a line of amps that are based on the popular amps of the 70s and 80s, but in a smaller form factor. Now, they first did this with the Silver Jubilee. They have a 20-watt Silver Jubilee model. And I believe 2-3 years ago, they came out with the Studio Classic 20, which is the JCM 800 model, and the Studio Vintage 20, which is like a 1959 Super Lead model, but at 20 watts. The great thing about these 20-watt amps is they have full-sized big boy tubes in it. And you know what? It makes a huge difference. So I actually got this amp on a trade not that long ago and figured I would shoot a video on it before I got rid of it. I would love to keep it, but I have 3 other JCM 800s, so there's really no point for me to have this. But it's cute. Look at it. It's so cute. It sounds really good, too. They did a really good job of coming very close to the JCM 800 sound. Now, obviously, it's not going to sound exactly alike. A lot of the JCM 800 and even the Plexi sound is in the magic of the transformers and how they saturate when you get them up to volume. The nice thing about this is you can get these amps up to a volume at which these transformers saturate a little faster, but it's not going to quite have the same effect as that big vintage iron getting saturated and providing more distortion in the signal like it would have on the older amps. But I can tell you it does sound really good when you turn it up. I have it ear-splittingly loud in here right now, and it's at about 3 out of 10. They really missed the opportunity to go to 11 here. But yeah, after about 4, the amp doesn't really get any louder. That's where the power section really starts compressing and getting kind of like a squishy, compressed feel. It's really cool, honestly. If you're in the room for it, it's really cool. My room is not treated, which, you know, I've gotten comments on that before, and that's okay. But yeah, if I turn it up super loud in here, it's gonna destroy my ears. So I already have it about as loud as I can bear in this room. As you guys know, I'm a huge Splon fan, and Splon's amps are based off of a JCM 800 or a JMP 2203 circuit. A lot of people think that because the JCM 800 was kind of the original metal amp, that it's going to be kind of this like high gain monster, and then they get it and they're disappointed. This one, I can say, honestly seems like it has a little bit more gain on tap than the older ones do. So I'm not sure what they changed in the preamp circuit to allow for that. It's subtle, it's not much, but it does seem like it's more. I don't ever remember being able to get my 2203 to get this amount of gain with just a boost out front. And that's all I had in that beginning clip. And right now I've got a Deadwell duality on in front, which is basically just a tube screamer style circuit. So the gain is at 7 o'clock. You really kind of have to doctor these amps up by stacking boosts or using something such as this, like the legendary Tones Hot Mod or Lynch Mod. Now this is a plug and play thing that you just stick in your V2 tube socket and it adds an extra gain stage. It adds some compression. But anyways, yeah, you always kind of had to do something to it to get it to modern type gain levels. Now where the gain is at right now, I'm pretty happy with that. especially if I were to layer that with another amp like my EVH 5150 Stealth that I use for shows. That's plenty of gain because the EVH will kind of make up for the lack of gain on this amp, and this amp will have a little bit more open roar to it and some more clarity. Anyways, we're gonna do as we always do. I'm gonna turn everything to noon, turn the gain down to 9 o'clock, and we're gonna see how it sounds just like that. No boosts are currently on. I have no effects engaged. It's just the amp through the cab with a single mic on it with my Gibson Les Paul Classic, and I've got a Duncan Blackwinter in the bridge. That could explain the extra output because I usually don't play pickups this hot, but this one sounds really good. So let's hear how that sounds. Real quick before we do that, I got you again. If this is your first time here at my channel, what I do is I take awesome high and mid or low gain amps and I play E standard riffs through them in high gain and try to get the best high gain tones out of them that I can. I capture the raw audio from the cabinet with an SM57, and then I present it to you guys on the other end of the video with no post-processing, so you get the best idea of how this stuff sounds in a real-world situation. If that's something that you like, I would really appreciate it if you hit like on the way out after you're done watching this video. Consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next one. All right, everything at noon, gain at 9 o'clock. Here's what we got. Not high gain at all. We got a little bit of breakup. It's very bright and quacky. JCM 800s are very known for being extremely bright amps, and the way that I dial them in, I usually have the treble dialed back to like 9 o'clock, and I make up for what that takes out with the presence because that kind of fattens the amp up overall, and the presence kind of adds a little sizzle, whereas the treble frequencies are based a little bit lower in the EQ stack, and they can become kind of grating on the ears very quickly. So depends on what you're going for, but it can get very, very hard on the ears very quickly. So let's do that now. We're gonna bring that treble back. All right, let's bring that bass up. Okay, so the amp is very, very quacky with the gain that low and thin, and obviously that works for certain types of music, but you guys know me, I'm a metal guy. Let's turn that gain up to noon and see how much saturation we get out of that. We're getting closer. Oh man, that sounds really good for that type of stuff. Haven't played that in years. Sounds great for that like early breakup to mid gain type of tones. It's actually a little bit more saturated than I would consider some of the like AC/DC stuff being, or even Led Zeppelin, but let's bump it up to 2 o'clock. So now we're getting into some much more saturated tones, and the JCM 800 has always been known for turning the gain up. It fattens the amp up. Now, it gets to a point where it actually kind of makes it flubby. You get too much gain, you get too much compression, and the amp starts to just be a flubby mess. So that's what you got when you really start pushing that gain. So what a lot of people do to compensate for this is stick a boost out front. All right, so let's add some presence because we're sounding a little muffled there. Add a little bit more mid and give it some bark. We're in thrash territory, just with a good boost out front and the preamp gain turned up that high. This dead weld is an incredible drive, by the way. Sounds good in front of everything. So what I'm gonna do is actually do what I normally do and stack drives in front of a JCM 800 so I can turn that gain down. This is a common thing to stack drives out in front of JCM 800s. It'll make the purists extremely mad, and that's okay. You guys can go ahead and hit that thumbs down button. What I'm trying to do is get the best out of whatever amp that I'm playing for my style, and a common thing to do is to stack boost. Now, I've experimented with a couple. I've never played these two together, but you're gonna wanna roll your gain back and see how it sounds like that. That sounds awesome to me, just like that. So let's turn the bass up to make up for how much low end is being cut. The Grid Slammer, in my experience, stacks well with other TS9 style boosts in front of Marshalls to kind of really give them a kick to get them into that super high gain territory. And we have a ton of mids going on there, but we're lacking a little bit of low end. So what I'm gonna do is dial the output back on both of these boosts and dial the gain up to give it a little bit more fullness. And there you have yourself a fire-breathing JCM 800, just like that. Now here's how the amp sounds with none of those boosts in front, just to give you an idea of how much of a difference it makes. The only thing that sucks about stacking boosts is you compress the front end of the amp a lot, and it kind of takes away some of that open magic that the JCM 800 has going on. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying that this is going to sound better necessarily, but to get the amp boosted and get the amount of gain that you might want out of it, it's kind of necessary. So again, we have both on. So we've got a lot of mids going on still. That's an awesome thrash tone right there. I just wish it had a little bit more balls. The nice thing about this amp is that it has an effects loop, so you could stick an EQ in the effects loop to make up for that low end that you're taking out if you wanted to. There's a lot of things you can do with this amp, and it's plenty loud. It is plenty loud to play with a band. So we're kind of compressed due to the pedals being out front. Let's turn it up. Sounds incredible. If you don't want the extra compression that having two boosts out in front of your amp adds, dime the level on something like the Grid Slammer and then add some gain from the pedal. And then make sure your guitar's in working condition. All right, so right there, that's a plenty saturated tone in my opinion. We could even add a little gain from the amp. So that's one way to do it. With the Deadwell duality, you can stack the boost right in the amp because it's got two different boost circuits in it. So you got your TC circuit and you've got your TS9 circuit. And you can just beat the hell out of the front end of your amp all day long. I'm going to pull some of the volume out of the Tube Screamer circuit as well. All right, guys, so that's pretty much going to do it for me on this one today. I hope you found this video helpful. I know that I was basically just boosting the hell out of an 800, but this little JCM Studio Classic 20 sounds absolutely fantastic. Still, that's with no boost. It's such a fun little amp. So if you're looking for a JCM 801 that's a little bit more affordable, these go for about 900 bucks to 1,000 used. I think they're 1,200 new. And also the volume is more manageable. This has a low volume switch or a low power switch, and you don't have to crank it in order to get the best tones out of it. This one sounds good when it's dialed down a little bit. This is a great option. I think Marshall did a really good job with this thing. It's a lot of fun to play. It sounds good. It sounds true to the originals. So yeah, I definitely give it my recommendation. Put a boost out front with some hot pickups, and you're ready to go to Metal Town all day long. I really want to punch myself in the face for saying Metal Town. Again, hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Kyle here again. We'll see you guys next time.